Hey, yo, what up? Welcome back. This is not a podcast. This is just my thoughts with Rob Markman. Shout out to all of y'all who've been supporting, man. Everybody who watches, who likes, who subscribes, who comments. I try to comment back to as many of y'all as I can. I want to get to 40,000 subscribers. We're really close. I feel like we could do it this week easily, man. So if you watch a couple of these videos, man, if you really just like what you see, like the energy and the demeanor of what's going on over here, man, please subscribe, man. It will mean a lot. It will help a lot. So today, I want to talk about Jim Jones and Nas. Y'all seen, well, you maybe seen the headlines. I'm gonna catch y'all up a little bit of what's going on with Jim Jones and the whole thing with him talking about Nas. So Jim Jones is look, to his own admission, is personally stirring up drama, comparing himself to Nas. You know, there was a clip on IG that went viral about maybe 2 weeks ago where a young guy, I think he was like 22 years old, said that he prefers Jim Jones to Nas, that he thought Jones was more influential to him and his generation than Nas was, which seemed to be an honest opinion from the young man. And, you know, that's somebody's opinion. You can't tell somebody who influenced them more. Like, so that was an honest opinion, you know, and it was what it was. Then you know, Jim appeared on Jada and Joe's new podcast, Jada Kiss and Fat Joe's new podcast, and Joe asked him about that clip, and Jim responded. First, he said, and he was clear. He said he admired Nas when he was young, but you know, as he got into the game and developed his own style and lane, you know, he became less of a Nas fan, you know. And at first it was fine. It was Jim, again, just saying his perspective and his experience. But then he started to dig deeper and said there was a misconception as to what Jim Jones has done in the game. He started maybe feeling slighted that people weren't giving him his credit. He started to advocate for himself, which he's supposed to do that, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think Jim absolutely had an impact in hip hop, especially in New York. During the era with all the mixtapes when Ballin was obviously at his height, you know, post Dipset. You know, Jim has done a lot, the way Jim dresses and just certain style and whatever. Jim has absolutely contributed to hip hop. You never take that away from him. So he's advocating for himself at this point in the interview, which is fine. Then he said, it starts to get crazy. Then he said, well, pull Nas's Billboard entries and pull up his Billboard entries, which, you know, so he's basically like, compare the stats between me and Nas, and Nas has way more Billboard entries than Jim. Like, so I don't know why he brought that up. But you know, that started to go viral, right? Then he got on with Shannon Sharp and Chad and Ocho Cinco, and Shannon asked if he was smoking when he said he was better than Nas. And, you know, Jim comes in again and says, I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. You understand that originally Jim was advocating for his own influence, which he should. But now when he's with Shannon Sharp, it's I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. He did acknowledge that he made a mistake suggesting he has more Billboard entries than Nas. He doesn't. Then he said Nas always came up second to Jay-Z and DMX, and said that Nas never had that type of influence on us. I'm assuming Jim meaning the streets, or maybe meaning directly on Harlem. I don't know, but you know, he Nas didn't have that type of influence on us, Jim says, except for his first album, which was Illmatic. You know, Jim said Nas lost him after the movie Belly. You know, this is all like opinion, right? And then he referenced the battle between Dipset and Nas, if you remember that. The whole, when Nas went on Power and told Cam to step his rap game up, and then it was the whole back and forth, the Koofy smacking, the that whole thing, right? He mentioned the Koofy list, Jim Jones. Then Jim says, I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. So you see, you know, my thing, and look, I'm calling it fairly, is part advocating for yourself, you know what I'm saying, which you should do, especially as an MC, especially as a rapper. Yeah, hell yeah, advocate for yourself. You don't got to play second fiddle to no one. But then it's the Billboard entries, which is just a fact. Nas has more. Then it's, I'm way more influential than Nas. It's different from, hey, for a generation of kids, I'm more of an influence than Nas is. Then I'm just way more influential than Nas, which is, again, subjective, but that's not really true, man. Nas's influence, like, is crazy in hip hop. And then I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. It's just crazy. Like, come on. And then Jim posted this on IG on Sunday today. He said, if you 40 and up arguing with me about Nas, y'all already lost. Y'all fell for the bait. My streams go up every time I got viral. I'm teaching you older artists a lesson in marketing. Y'all so stuck in yesterday. Y'all mad at the way things run today. Tighten up, LOL. And then in the caption he wrote, I said what I said. P.S. I will wrap circles around any artist from my era. Whoever dare, I think he meant dare. Whoever dare step into the booth, bring some money with you, because this game ain't free. We outside in the field. It looked like Jim the E on Jim's, like every time it's the, it's just TH. We outside in the field. Take that as you may, but we working every day. My new handle is AB and not Antonio Brown, more like algorithm bender, LOL. So boom, that's what it is, right? And this is why, like, I didn't. A lot of people are upset, but I didn't really take it seriously. I'm not upset about it. I'm just kind of calling it for what it is. But it's just hard to get upset about any of this because it's clear that it's for attention. I don't even know if it's a rollout if Jim has something new, but it's bait, right? Rage bait. Jim said it himself, so you can't take any of this seriously. But that part about him teaching the older artists marketing, well, first of all, here's the beautiful thing. Jim is 48. Nas is 51. Ain't that much of an age gap between them. They're in the same boat, if you ask me. Nas, of course, has been in the game longer, you know what I'm saying? But they're around the same age. And, we talked about this before on this channel, like during Grammy nominations when Common and Pete Rock got nominated for a Grammy. We're in this beautiful era where I think there's absolutely room for older artists, for artists who are 40 and up, for artists who are touching 50 to drop records and be themselves doing it. We've had this debate and should there be like an adult contemporary hip hop category? I don't know. Right. But it's a, I like the idea. I got to really sit with it some more. I like the idea because I think it's a dope idea. It allows older artists to, that hip hop is the only one that we put a clock on. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't tell the rock artists to, U2. Bono was just on the Lil Wayne album. Like they don't tell the rock artists when to clock out. In R&B, if you can sing, nobody's going to tell Stevie Wonder he can't drop another album. You know what I'm saying? That's Stevie, dog. Like, if there's a demand for it, if Stevie feels like doing it, if there's a fan base out there, then why not? We're the only ones who put age limits on our rappers. So, I say that, I'm going off on a tangent a bit, but we're in this beautiful era where rappers, older rappers are finding ways to exist and be themselves. Right now, we're having a renaissance or just this new era. Again, Common and Pete Rock nominated for Grammys. Killer Mike winning Grammys. Nas winning Grammys later in his career. Nas hadn't won one early in his career. Nas won one, he dropped 6 albums with Hit Boy and this new renewed energy. He toured with Wu-Tang. He sold out MSG solo for the first time as a solo artist by himself off the strength of those 6 Hit Boy albums. Killer Mike and LP are currently touring with Wu-Tang. Prior to that, Killer Mike toured with Dave Chappelle. Slick Rick, at 60 years old, just dropped an album being himself, being Slick Rick. What Nas is doing at Mass Appeal, there's a Raekwon album coming. I think Ghostface is about to drop a new album. There's a new Mobb Deep album coming. So we're and Nas in a lot of ways is responsible for making way through Mass Appeal, but with himself for kind of showing artists a way of like, yo, you could be 40 plus in this, and this how you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like here's the space where we can exist and be fly and be ourselves and don't necessarily got to play the game that the young boys are forced. You could be your age. You could be age appropriate hip hop. Clips are back rapping. Let's talk about the Clips real quick. And I know some people, and the reason why I bring up the Clips, because there's some people who are going to say, yo, what's so different from what Pusha is doing right now and what Jim is doing? You know, and I would say, look, Pusha has a personal issue with Kanye. They know each other. It's a personal relationship. So he's addressing that in the music. He's not just saying it to say it. It's in the music first. So when he's saying, oh, him and him waiting on Yeezy, I hope you got your squeegees, like whatever, it comes from something real. That was on Ace Trumpets. Travis Scott, there's something personal there. They were in the same crew. Good music. They were in the same room interacting with Pharrell. There was a thing that happened. According to Push, it's something that Travis did. So we get it. We get So Be It. And again, it's a dope record. I said this before when I talked about So Be It. This is a side. So Be It is a dope record. So it starts with the music, and then Pusha goes off and is telling you what his issue is. That's the way I see it. That's the difference. I don't really know what the difference between what the issue between Nas and Jim is. But some people will see it differently. That I'm telling you, that's the way I see it. You may see it differently. You can hit me in the comments and talk to me about that. But even Pusha and Jim Jones started out of nowhere when Jim started questioning Pusha's place on that greatest rappers list. So like, to me, it's a difference there. And like I said, there's music to back it up at the moment when it comes to pushing the clips. But besides that, I've just given you an example of a bunch of 40 plus rappers winning without doing the rage bait. And what Jim is saying is that he's giving a lesson in how older artists can be out here marketing themselves. He's telling you before it's rage bait. He says y'all fell for the bait. He's telling you it's rage bait. So this is my question to y'all, and I'm gonna throw it to y'all. We're talking about Jim right now, but when it comes to it, which is more effective to you as a listener? As a fan, is this Jim Jones method of marketing where we're all talking about him? Is this what you want to see for veteran artists? Is this, does this make you want to hear the music? You know, let's and Jim, and again too, I like that El Capo album was fire to me. The last album that Jim dropped had some joints on there, especially him linking up with Static Selector. Like, I'm a fan of Jim. I've been a fan of Jim. But the question is the marketing method. Like does this whole thing, him and Nas, this whole thing that's going on, does this make you want a Jim Jones album? If he drops an album right now, would you listen? If he drops a single right now, are you into it? Are you supporting it? Or is there more effective ways to market? Or do you look at things like what Common and Pete Rock are doing, what Killer Mike is doing, you know what I'm saying, what Nas is doing, and is that the way? Or is there multiple ways to do it? Is there no one way to do it? For me, you know, it's interesting, but I love to see rappers age and be able to be himself. One of the things that made me really happy about this Slick Rick thing was that 60 years old, he was still Slick Rick. And you either took it or left it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he wasn't, Slick Rick didn't come to you as something else in 2025. He came to you as Slick Rick. Killer Mike comes to you as Killer Mike. Pete Rock comes to you as Pete Rock. Common comes to you as Common. Nas has come to us as Nas. You know, so, you know, it just depends on what your preference. But hit me up in the comments. Let me know. Let's talk about it. All right. Till the next time. Peace.